Hi there, it's Catherine, your lawyer friend and guide, and this is the #1 podcast for legal careers in Japan. Thanks for stopping by the Lawyer on Air podcast. Today's special guest defies the old idea that you can't be both kind and successful in the law. Early on in his career, he was told he was too nice and that it wouldn't get him far. Well, that comment did not age well because Alexander is now the managing partner of an international law firm in Tokyo. He's a savvy, seasoned lawyer who found his love for compliance and took it all the way from the cubicle to the corner office. And along the way, he has become a powerful advocate for well-being, inclusion, and doing the law with heart. I too believe that kindness is a strength in the law. Lots of people send me DMs for help, and I simply cannot help everyone. But even taking a moment to point someone towards their very next step, rather than just hitting delete, well, I think that's a true form of service. And if that's what kindness looks like in our profession, then I'm proudly a member of the Kind Lawyer Club. And today's special guest is too. We talk about values, visibility, and why being a human-centric lawyer is not a weakness, but a defining strength. Oh, and while I've got you here, if you've been thinking, I'd love a sounding board like Catherine in my corner, I do offer paid mentoring to a select few who are navigating legal careers, leadership pivots, and boardroom moves, especially here in Japan. So reach out to me for a chat if that's been on your mind. Now, let's get into it. Hello, Alexander, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Catherine, for having me.
Oh, I've been waiting to invite you as my special guest for quite some time. I'm really excited for today.
You know, I've been following your podcasts for years and was secretly hoping this day will come. It's amazing. It's start of June, and my first meeting of the June is this amazing podcast I'm looking forward to, Catherine.
That is a very significant, I think. It's a great omen for the month. Well, I know we meet up in lots of places for our conversations over the years, but for this particular episode, I want to ask you to imagine where we're meeting up. Where are we, and what are you choosing from the beverage menu?
If I'm choosing for me, you may know I don't drink alcohol, so it would have to be a green tea, my beverage of choice. But place-wise, I think Two Rooms is one of my favorite places to meet. It's wonderful to have a chat, but also to watch people. I've been going there for a while, and I think they've just renovated. Would love to go there and have my green tea, and maybe you have a glass of rosé.
I will. And yes, they have renovated, and I've been waiting for the vibe to simmer down a little bit before I go to see the renovations. Yeah. Oh, great. Well, let's go. Well, let's get into it. And we start these from the beginning. And I don't even think I've asked this question before to you. No. What led you to the law in the first place? And what's really kept you curious about the law over all these years?
I was growing up in the USSR, Soviet Union. Your younger listeners may not know what USSR was. It was a union of states, which was a forced union. It was literally around the time when the union was about to collapse, and the Soviet-style mentality was meant to be replaced with freedom, equality, democracy, rule of law. All of those concepts were quite new and inspiring. So the perestroika and glasnost era has come in, and I wanted to be part of the change. You know, that's probably part of my DNA as well. And to this day, I'm committed to all of those concepts, especially equality and democracy and rule of law. And you can see, Catherine, I guess, in the news that my people in Ukraine are still fighting for these values against authoritarianism. And it's, you know, we take it for granted if we live in long-established Western democracies, but it's not taken for granted where I come from. So I think that was a real push for me to look at law as an opportunity to be part of the change.
That's fantastic. I understand completely. Where did you study law?
So my first law school was in a border town between Ukraine and Russia, in Rostov. But then I moved to the States and Canada when I was halfway through, and I ended up finishing my law school in Canada and then I went to New York to NYU to pursue my legal career, and I'm a New York lawyer now.
Wow, right. And but you could have lived and worked anywhere in the world, and here you are in Japan. So what brought you actually to come to Japan then, and what's made you stay?
Japan was a bit of a surprise, to be honest, Catherine. So it sounds for me, when I look back, and people have asked me, of course, this question over the years, why Japan, etc. It's been a dream when I was younger to be in New York, obviously, to, the lights, the city lights, the opportunities, the amazing people, the diversity, all of this. And I really enjoyed living in New York, but after a few years, I felt like I wanted to do something else. And my initial reaction was to go somewhere outside of the US. I was thinking of Paris or maybe Buenos Aires, and because could speak in French. But a friend of mine mentioned that there was an opportunity to come to Japan and to work in-house. And I was at the time in a big law firm in New York, to work in-house and to experience Japan. And I've never been to Japan before. And I was like, wow, that sounds interesting. So I came 16 and a half years ago, and here I am. To be honest with you, I feel very fortunate that I came to Japan for a long term and not just as a tourist. People come here, and I would have come here for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, and I would have loved it. But what an absolutely amazing journey and pleasure and privilege to be here long term and to really explore this phenomenal country in a gradual manner. And I still do every single day. So that's Japan for me.
Yes. Well, two things. What captured your heart? And the second thing, you did in-house legal counsel work.
Yes, working for Sojitsu Kabushiki Gaisha for almost 4 years was still one of the best memories for me. I absolutely enjoyed being in-house. It was one of those pivotal moments in my career. It was one of those moments when I changed as a personality as well, going from New York lawyer, a certain way of doing things and mentality and mindset, to being a part of the bigger team and working towards the goals and objectives were really communal. That was really fun for me. And in a way, Catherine, again, going back to my background, I grew up in communism. So in a way, the community precedence over individualism was natural to me. So I enjoyed that a lot. I think it makes me a better lawyer, to be honest, because I can now advise clients, especially Japanese companies, while I understand what type of issues and internal concerns may be arising and how they can be best addressed. That is, I think, makes a big difference for me.
Yeah. Is there a moment you thought, I'm definitely staying here? Like during that time or after that, something that sealed the deal for you?
I think there are probably a lot of moments like this. I think the first shock was, in a way, um, the summer Omatsuri, that special community dance and music. And I was like, wow, I couldn't have enough of it. I think I own, I don't know, a dozen yukatas now because I was committed to going every single weekend during summer to different omatsuris.
Wow.
But to be honest with you, Catherine, coming here to Japan without any prior knowledge of Japan and with zero language skills, I felt that the real change for me would be if I could speak Japanese and if I could learn it to a level where I could communicate to people in a social setting, in a, an ideally professional setting as well. So very quickly into my life here in Japan, I began taking lessons. I think maybe from the second or third week after being here. So it all depended whether I could make that progress, realizing full well Japanese was not like adding another Romance language where, you could go from French to Spanish. It was not that difficult. This was difficult. And kanji, as you know, is not easy. So I think the first test for me, I did take the GLPT, the M4 test, and my
Yes.
teacher at the time said, "Oh, you've only been here for a month and a half. You should start from five." Well, I was still a New York lawyer. I'm like, five sounds like, underachieving. Let's, make a challenge and do four. I don't think I was ready. So I did pass four because
Good.
I just kind of willed myself to win. And that, I think, initially felt to me, I could learn the language and I could be at the level where I could be part of the community and, and I can, enjoy living in Japan and actually properly benefiting from living. Because culture and language are very important. As for me as Ukrainian, language has always been an important issue because if it's taken away, your culture really, diminishes, frankly speaking. I'm still learning every single day, frankly. It's a hobby. But the initial big hump to be able to say in a restaurant that I don't eat pork, for instance, and to speak and to understand the basics, that was really sealing the deal in a way for me that it could be home because otherwise I wanted it to be home.
Yes, I get it. But I love, and I didn't even know that you were entranced by the Matsuri
Oh, yeah.
festivals from the first
Let's go
word go.
dancing. It's coming. Let's go dancing.
I expect to see you in a yukata next time we get together.
Good.
Very interesting. Well, I
At four
mean,
rooms.
from those days of dancing around, and I think you still do, you're now managing partner at Ashurst Tokyo. And I, again, publicly, congratulations for that amazing, amazing
Thank you.
achievement.
Thank you.
How did that moment land with you? And what do you think is necessary? We're getting into the hard stuff now. What's
Mm.
necessary for a person to become a managing partner? There might be some hard skills and soft skills there.
Wow. Yes, we are getting into deeper stuff, Catherine. Can I just say, I don't think I was striving to be a managing partner. I don't actually think many years back I was striving to be a partner. A good colleague of mine, when I was at kind of crossroads, do I push for partnership or do I go back in-house? A good colleague of mine who's now a good, wonderful client said to me, Alexander, if you're a partner, you can hire your team. You can choose your team whom you work with. And that made a big difference for me in terms of thinking, wow, I mean, that's really amazing. And that I can tell you this is true, choosing your own team and working with people you like and you can align with in so many ways.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Good advice.
You can agree, right? And
Sure.
then being managing partner is also not natural progression, I would say. I mean, I don't
Isn't it?
think, well, Catherine, would you agree that not every lawyer makes a good manager?
That is true.
I've seen some bad managers. I've been lucky, to be
Ah,
honest with you, to see some good managers. My previous firm, Freshfields, I could see Georgia Dawson, who's now managing partner of the firm. I mean, she's done a fantastic job. My current CEO, Paul Jenkins, he's phenomenal, frankly, as a manager, as a lawyer, as a person. Those role models did inspire to maybe to aim for that. And David Wadham, who was a statue in the community here in Japan and frankly globally in project space, he was spending more time with family in London, and the management asked whether I would be keen to do it, and I had some hesitations because I would appreciate that it is a challenge, but also it would probably either take away from my client work, which I really enjoy first and foremost, and add a few more hours to, and then take away from maybe family time. But to be honest with you, it's been 5 months, and I've been lucky to have support from, David, and who's now more in London but still spends time in Tokyo. My managing Asia partner, Jeannie, and again Paul, who's our CEO. And frankly, we have amazing OMP team. It's been easy in a way and fun, and we are in a growth mode, Catherine. So I think it's nice to see office growing, and we are hiring actually. So it's fun. I would say managing a diverse group of people, because obviously we have people who come from international background and people who are, Japanese, but everyone, I think the goal for me, and we've had this discussion over pizza with my team, and I invited everyone, the assistants and the, other partners, and we had this nice pizza night. And I said, guys, why are we here? And it was good to be on the same page because I said, guys, we're here because we serve clients and we want to do our best. There will be challenging days, but overall, we're here because as a team, we want to do a very good job for clients, and we want to be able to be proud of what we do and who we are. And I think that alignment is important. And it was well received. I think that's where, it doesn't matter where you come from, but everyone strives to do a wonderful job and be proud. And that made a difference for me. And I think that's a skill where I need to remind myself and my team. We haven't faced any issues, but if there were, but I'd say like, well, why we're here? Let's just focus on the main task.
mm, pizza night. Is this why it's fun? I picked up
Yes.
on fun there.
Yes.
It's not often that people would say private practice equals fun. What else makes it fun working
Mm.
in your operations there?
Catherine, it's true. And sometimes I have to say to people, look, law firm isn't meant to be necessarily fun, but you have to find those opportunities and those moments, even in your private practice, even in the tough situations, to smile and to support each other, to be human. But Catherine, to coming back to your question, if I can think of a few things that help me and kind of skills, soft skills, etc., I would say patience is very important. Leading by example, I think it's critical. Appreciating differences. I'm not trying ever to make anyone be like me. I'd rather encourage people to be themselves and shine in their own way. Being fair, to be honest, is very important. I also think being generous to the team. Almost every weekend, I buy something like a sweets or a sponsored pizza sometimes, and I think it's important to have that small but important element of showing your care and, frankly, the gratitude. Ensuring team's mental health, very important to me. And again, having fun is critical. As a manager, one thing that I did have to learn, and I received a very good advice from someone who's been managing for a while internally, and she told me, look, Alexander, try to not make exceptions. Avoiding making exceptions and sticking by the rules is very important because that's what rules are for, and that's what makes everything a bit more fairer and kind of universal. And after all, as lawyers, we should follow rules, right? So, you know, while balancing being empathetic and sympathetic, but at the same time appreciating that there are rules in place and, exceptions might not always be given, that helps me to keep everyone, again, being fair and moving forward as one team.
Right. How does that show up? I'm trying to think of what an example might look like of being fully empathetic, as you said, sympathetic to someone's situation, but sticking to the rules. And how
Yeah.
do you do that publicly or privately? What does it look like? Have you got an example of
Yeah.
something that's come up? Yeah,
Sure. So an example being, we have a policy where anyone can spend up to 2 weeks working from anywhere, another office or other location. And people have asked me to spend more time,
I
maybe
see.
three weeks or 4 weeks, and I've actually allowed in most circumstances to, I didn't, if no, there were no other concerns. To me, it felt like, well, ultimately we're professional, especially for lawyers. We can rely on each other in terms of work product, and if you're continuously available and for work and it doesn't really impede the quality, then I'm happy to allow that. So that's one example where I think,
Right.
it came up.
Yeah,
But
I see.
overall, Catherine, I think the leading by example, people also know when to push boundaries, I think. And if you're being fair and if you're being, I don't want to say strict, but you follow the rules, I think people will appreciate it and they would only ask when it's really necessary. And you appreciate that. That's being, you're being asked for something that's quite necessary.
Yeah, it's different if you ask for that quite regularly
Exactly.
and then just out of the blue something's happened or is necessary and asking just
Yeah.
on a one-off. Yeah, I
And
get
it's
that.
important to have the open doors and open heart policy. So I have that for sure. So I think people do come to me, and sometimes, I'll tell you honestly, becoming managing partner, it's been 5 months. It does add on average about a couple of hours every single day. And some of that time, managing is a big word, but frankly, sometimes you're being a listener, sometimes you have to be a judge, sometimes you have to be a manager, but many times you're there to support and to show care. And that is important to me. People come to me if they have concerns, sometimes even personal, and come to me and I said, look, I can be a friend. I can switch hats very easily. I'm not always your manager, your boss. I'm your colleague and I can be your friend. And that's good to be able to, I think, as a
Absolutely.
relationship, as a firm, because we spend a long time in,
We
working.
do. We
It's a
spend most
right.
of our time at work, don't
Mm,
we, really?
that's right. So you want to be with people you like and you enjoy and you trust and you care for. And you don't have to be everyone's best friend, frankly, but it's important to know that you're appreciated, that you're respected, and that you're cared for. And I think that's what I strive every single day to be.
Well, your practice spans many jurisdictions because you work globally. So, how are you developing that intuition, shall we say, across different systems and cultures? And maybe there's a lesson from all of this work that you do globally that you think every lawyer should know.
I don't know if there is an answer for every lawyer should know. I do like people taking their own views and approaches, and I think the cross-cultural element, again, I think you have to keep an open mind. And I have a rule, even for myself, that I basically to expect the unexpected. Yeah.
Yes. I did hear this rephrased in some way the other day, which was called PTUs, and these are expect your potential trip ups,
Hmm.
PTUs.
Hmm.
So if you start the day with a PTU or a list of 4 or 5 things you think might happen today or this week, and if they do happen, you're kind of mentally prepared. But if they
Hmm.
don't,
Hmm.
you can also celebrate that they didn't happen, but getting yourself in the mindset as a lawyer, perhaps, or as a human being, that something's going to trip me up, something's unexpected is going to come across my path, then you're more ready for it with the cells in your body.
Agreed. Can I just say from my perspective, ideally, it would be good out of 5 things, at least 3 or 4 to happen as planned, and maybe only 1 or 2 not planned. Because if you have 5 unplanned things, that's really a lot of mecha kucha.
Yes.
But we're in service industry, so we don't dictate how our day will be necessarily. We follow and we support the clients and what happens, on the other side, and basically we try to be supportive. So I think that mindset is very critical.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and just
Mm.
ask you what I've been asking most of my guests, in fact, all of my guests this season 10, including special guests such as your good self, is a kind of signature question, something that's a little bit deeper that perhaps you may not have been asked before. And I asked you in advance to select a couple of questions, and you chose this one about a reinvention moment. So I'm going to ask you the question: what's that moment when you had to reinvent yourself or approach as a lawyer, something that perhaps required letting go of who you were to become who you are now? And in that process, what did you discover about yourself?
Thank you, Catherine. For me, I would say that moving to Japan wasn't just switching geographies. I was trained as an international tax lawyer, and that was my kind of focus and area of expertise at the very, very beginning of my career, which I really wanted to change. I wanted to be doing something more global, actually more international, and coming to work for Sojitsu, where I focused on a lot of disputes and compliance issues. That wasn't my professional DNA beforehand, but I embraced it and I really enjoyed it. People go to law school with certain vision and they become lawyers and focus on certain area of law. I actually think the English law firms, unlike American firms, it's the whole system is better because you have those traineeship opportunities and you have 4 seats and people can test different laws and different practices and even different colleagues, etc., before they kind of choose where they end up. I thought I would be an amazing international tax lawyer, and it wasn't really my calling ultimately. But I found my calling, a few years later, and now it's been, 17 years of doing compliance, and I'm very, very happy. So reinvention was in a way for me. I was seeking reinvention, but I actually wasn't sure what it would be. But I'm glad my stars aligned in a way that it is where I am now. Mhm.
Yeah, so the kind of in house work helped you reinvent yourself because you had to do something different. There wasn't probably any tax issue
No.
or question
Mm.
running around the organization, and it was you had to literally do it overnight, basically.
Correct. Exactly.
Right. I see.
And of course, because I did the disputes work on the tax side, so it wasn't completely, dissimilar in a sense of processes, etc. I went to India 6 times for, was in all sorts of Indian courts representing Japanese clients.
Wow.
And I'll never forget my Indian lawyer, this beautiful Indian lady, and she said to one of the judges, "I have a client from Japan," and she pointed at me, and they were expecting to see a Japanese person. And there I was, and you could see the perplexion of everyone in the courtroom was like,
Yes.
"Huh?
Good to
He's
have
from
a
Japan." Yeah, he's
surprise.
from Japan, this blonde one.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a wonderful, I would say, reinvention. So maybe when I look back, I would say, don't be afraid of taking yourself out of comfort zone and seeking new opportunities and reinventing yourself. I don't know if I wasn't seeking it, if it would have come to me necessarily. I think you have to make the effort to be able to reinvent yourself. It's not going to happen with a magic wand. There's got to be
No.
a bit of a drive in itself.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to go to the next signature question, but just
Mm,
before that, I noticed when you said about comfort zones,
mm,
you said don't be afraid to take yourself out of a comfort zone. And often we hear this phrasing of go out of your comfort zone. And I think go out of your comfort zone can feel quite confronting. But I just want to say, I want to take your words and use them in my mentoring as take yourself out of. That is so much lighter and gives people ease to hear you say that. And I'm
mm.
imagining that leads into this next question about your superpower, because every lawyer has a superpower. And I know that you do have your own, and you're going to call it out because I've asked you to. And it's nothing about being humble. I want to know what your lawyer superpower is and how you developed it.
Lawyer superpower. And honestly, I think it's a very strong word. We all have our own superpowers, of course. I revert back to, I would say, being a people's person. And I think when we practice law, we focus on, law, and we not always focus on the personal and individual aspect. I think a really good lawyer distinguishes itself from herself or himself from an average lawyer, I would say, is that you have the ability to be a good psychiatrist as well. Because a lot of the issues, especially in the disputes area and compliance area, there are some underlying element where there's human psychology involved. I'm not a psychiatrist, obviously a psychologist, but I think I do tend to be attentive to individual elements of what we're dealing with. And that also requires sometimes, Japanese, they say, read the air. Some clients maybe prefer to have a short explanation and, get to the answers. Some people may prefer to have a, longer discussion and maybe get together to the answers. And to me, remaining a human and putting human first and remembering that is I would say, is important element the way I approach law. And I don't know if it's superpower or not, but it's served me well. And I think I don't look at my clients as the paying client or, this is my new mandate, I'm gonna make some, money. My first and foremost, the way I look at this, well, how can I help? And that is really, I would say, important mentality. And again, on a personal level, I want to connect.
Yes.
And I can share with you a story. Actually,
Sure.
it reminds me when I began practicing law in my very, very first review back in New York in a big law firm. One of my partners, and remember, I was like this aspiring associate, and I just finished my NYU law. I was top of my class. I was so proud of myself. And then, boom, you start from the bottom. And during the review, one of the partners literally said to me, Alexander, you're a nice person. It's too bad it doesn't really matter in our area of business. And
Ooh,
I still remember this 20 years later,
you
but
would.
I think it's not true, at least not in Japan. I think in Japan, and this is probably where it clicked for me as well, Catherine, there was a very important impetus put on the personal connection. One of my
Mm.
clients said to me as well, like, look, there are a lot of good lawyers, but we want to work with someone we like and we trust. Well, you don't have, you can't be liked by everyone, and you may not be trusted by everyone, but if you make an honest effort, and there will be people who will like you and will trust you, and that connection, again, especially in what we do, compliance sensitive stuff, it's very, very important.
Mm. You just reminded me of Jacinda Ardern, former Prime Minister of New Zealand, and she said the same thing. You can be kind and empathetic and still be a strong leader. They're not one or the other, right?
Correct.
It's not mutually exclusive. They are both together. And I guess you find the place where, as you've done, where you can be aligned in your values, be a people's person, and perhaps over there where that comment was said, they behave like that and they have their own style of clients that
Sure.
stick to them, and that's for them. So good on you.
Thank you. And I think most New Zealanders I've met, they do have that nice balance of being, empathetic and strong at the same time and fun. And so you included, and quite a few
Hopefully.
others we know in Tokyo and otherwise. So,
Well,
um, you know,
thank you for that. I'm going to move to just talking about how you're hiring your team.
Hmm.
And then I'm going to jump back to like your passion projects because you've
Okay.
got a few. So let's
Mm.
pop into talking about hiring and building your team. And I think if anyone's listening so far, they will get an idea of what it's like to work with you and what you focus on and what's important to you. And there's a lot of things there you've touched on that are, about a people's person.
Hmm.
But when you're hiring beyond the obvious credentials, right, that you're a lawyer, that you've got experience,
Hmm.
what signals to you when you're in the room with somebody or on Zoom
Hmm.
that you think they're going to be someone who will thrive in your team and in this legal market in Japan?
In terms of hiring, for me, I think it's all about the potential. Look, I don't think, well, there are, you're going to get good CVs for a position, and some of them maybe, I don't know, 90% match. It's probably difficult to find 100% match. I'm not looking for that necessarily. I'm more keen to see whether a person has the potential to grow and to grow both professionally and personally. Because we're a small office and anyone joining us will make an impact one way or another. So I want it to be a positive impact. And I will spend time and effort to nurture talent. So, I don't do sink or swim. So that's very, very important. You asked about qualities that stand out in the candidate. I
Mm,
mean, obviously, I think it's important to have an inquisitive mind and willingness to learn overall. Those are the indications of the ability to grow, right? I do put emphasis on courtesy and politeness, and
mm,
frankly, friendliness and humbleness. I think those are very important qualities, and I don't always see them, to be honest. But if I do, it's a big, big plus for me. Catherine, you know me
mm,
well, and I like people with sense of humor. I think it's important. Our job isn't easy, so if you're always uber serious, it may not help in a way. It's fine, of course, it's great, but you gotta just appreciate sense of humor, and I try to have a joke here and there to ease the tension sometimes, and to allow us to refocus and to even refresh. We talked earlier about caring, and I think it is important to care about yourself, to be honest, and also to care about your team, the quality of your work, and the mental health of your team. That's another, I would say, important quality that's not always easy to see right away, but it is a very
mm,
critical, fundamental quality, whether the person is long-term potential or not. And then maybe last one, if someone who doesn't take themselves too seriously, I try not to do it for myself as well. I think, look, you will receive criticism. People will make suggestions for adjustments. Okay, you can take them or not. But I think ability to say, okay, I don't, I'm still a whip. I'm still, progressing, and someone taking time and effort to help me, that's great. So I would say that
mm,
combination of personal skills, professional skills, but also ability to grow and to care, I would think they would definitely stand out for me. And I don't often see them. I think maybe 20% of candidates that would meet that. And then that once they do, if I hire someone, I'm so lucky. I feel my team is amazing. And there were a lot of CVs when I received when I was hiring, and I could see that my team, I don't want to say, diamond in the rough, but in a way, they were, and I'm so happy that they're shining now, and now it's shining me sometimes, which
yeah.
is great.
Tell me then, since we've got you divulging some tips, what you're seeing in the current legal hiring market. Any intel that you'd like to share from the market?
Sure, market is changing. So where we are now, and let me talk first about Ashurst. So we are hiring. We're looking for projects, Bingoshi associates in particular. We are hiring in the corporate space. I'm always looking for talent for my team in disputes and compliance. We've been busy, which is great. For my practice in particular, the languages are important. We work not only for Japanese clients, but also I service clients in China and Hong Kong. So my team is actually trilingual, fully English, Japanese, and Chinese, which does help a lot. I think. The Japanese language skill is critical for this market, whether you're Bingoshi or not. Obviously, Bingoshi will have Japanese language skill, but if you're foreign lawyer, it will definitely make a big difference. Although, with Japan is gradually becoming more international, but I'm often in meetings where we speak in Japanese. In terms of areas of law, it wouldn't surprise you, but a lot of attention has been paid to corporate and private equity. I think those areas is both inbound and outbound, which has changed. For many years, we've seen mostly outbound work, and now it's both. What I do, the compliance area of law, Catherine, there's a joke saying compliance went from a cubicle to a corner office. It's true. We're not leaving the corner office now. I literally have a corner office now. I think compliance is here to stay, and that's an area where you will always have a job, either in private practice or in-house.
Well, Alexander, you seem to also somehow find time to lead and serve in so many meaningful ways in the community. And I know you're going to tell me about Tal and Lan because they readily come to mind for me. So, what drives your engagement in these causes? Tell us about them and what they mean to you.
Thank you, Catherine. Tell about Tell. So
Tell about Tal, yes.
yes, Tell is a Tokyo English Lifeline. If you guys not familiar with it, it's a NPO focusing on supporting mental health for particularly foreign community here in Japan. We've been around for over 50 years, and I've been fortunate to serve as a chair of the board now. I'm still remain on the board. And the drive is both personal and professional. Many, many years ago, I lost a friend to suicide, and it was a tough loss. And have another very, very close person to me now who's attempted suicide when he was younger. And in Japan, we see and hear about it way too often. Every life has a meaning. Every life is beautiful and wonderful. And if I can do something to support this and to be part of it, I want to, and I will find time. Again, it's very important to me. Um, LAN is a Lawyers for LGBT and Allies Network. That's an NPO I helped to found, and it's 10 years ago. We create a platform for the lawyers and legal professionals to support LGBTQ rights in Japan. And we work with the litigation team to support the marriage equality lawsuits across the country. We work with corporates to support marriage equality for business perspective, and ultimately we try to help individuals, but mostly corporates as well, to set up and educate themselves on the equality and how to do it internally and how to also support the process externally. That's also personal and professional to me. It's been a wonderful opportunity to give back. When I came to Japan, I realized quickly it's not a place where Japan really likes people to come from outside and tell Japan what to do. And that's not the intention at all. It's the experience and expertise we bring in that helps, I think, Japan to grow and to be more competitive and better. And I've seen so many of friends and acquaintances who have left Japan because they were gay or lesbian or transgender, and they left because they didn't think Japan was going to be a good home long term for them and their families. And I think it's a big loss for us. Sometimes we can't attract talent that's LGBT to bring here. I've seen people who would refuse to come to Japan because their spouses couldn't get a visa, or not immediately. So I wanted to make that change and to make Japan more competitive and more progressive in a way. And it's been an honor to be co-chair of LAN, particularly working together with Fujita Sensei, who's my co-chair, and so many other amazing board members. And you, Catherine, you've been in a very active supporter as well in your role and as as a former chair of Women in Law and collaborating with kind of fellow organizations like that makes a big difference. So the passion is again personal and professional, and it's been amazing to see so many people who are supportive. And I think you and I have met through that work, frankly. So
I
that
think it's
makes a big
true.
difference.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is true. And I was just thinking for someone who's listening and going, I want to get involved, but I don't know how to do it. And I want to help my business
Mm.
somehow embrace the values of land. Is there something they can do?
Yeah.
What are the
Well,
first few steps they could do? Could you tell
well,
us?
thank you. With LAN, actually, we're hosting. This is a Pride Month and Pride Week. We're hosting a couple of events. I think they're available. Information is available on our social media. So please join us. Please join our listserv so you can receive information about future events and opportunities to collaborate. If you wanted to host us for a presentation, we're happy to do it bilingually or Nihongo de or Eigo de. All of those opportunities exist, and we have about 400 affiliate members basically on our listserv from, I don't know, over 100 organizations, law firms, banks, and domestic companies and international corporations. It's a nice and fun group, and you've been to our galas. We hosted an annual gala. This year will be 10th anniversary. We try to celebrate the progress made and strive for more equality and inclusion in the future. It has been challenging recently, obviously. We will all watch the news, but I also feel like people who've made a commitment and companies that have made a real wholehearted commitment to diversity and equality, they will continue doing because that's now part of DNA and part of what they truly believe in terms of their values. You don't change the values and principles overnight because there's a new president, but the organization like LAN does allow people to feel that they're not alone and feel that their progress can be made and will be made.
Sure. And isn't there a white paper that businesses can
Yeah,
get support?
of course. It's called a Viewpoint on Marriage Equality.
Thank
It
you.
was launched by ACCJ with other chambers with our support. I think this year it's going to be sixth year. Over 500 companies have signed on to this. We need more. We're happy to have more. The beauty of this document, it does state the business case for marriage, particularly from the perspective of Japan and Japanese companies to be competitive globally, to attract the LGBT talent, to keep the LGBT talent, or even allies. We know a lot of people who are allies, they want to work in an organization which supports equality and promotes diversity. Yeah? One of the beauties of this document is that every court decision in Japan that currently has gone through, and now we've gone through all of the high courts which have been supportive of marriage equality, they've all referenced this document, saying this is an example that society is ready. Even the corporates, which corporates frankly don't go into domain of pro bono and social change, but even they have found the strength and call to make that important recommendation to the government of Japan to make the important change to allow gay and lesbian couples to marry and to have equal rights and protections under the law.
Fantastic. I love that. I didn't know that the courts had been referencing that document.
Mm, mm,
People can just pop on to LAN website and
yeah,
find it there and then
yeah,
share it and evangelize it within their company and then sign up as one of
absolutely.
the
Yeah,
supporters.
yeah. All we need is an email with a logo
Right,
from an official source
right.
saying we support it. Here's a logo. Please add to your beautiful logos of other companies, and
Fantastic.
we're happy to add that.
Can companies outside of Japan do that too? We have a lot of listeners outside of Japan, but maybe it's if they're even global, it's their domestic operation that supports it.
We welcome everyone and anyone, but I think the goal of this is to companies that have presence in Japan to
Yeah,
voice their support for marriage equality. I think Hong Kong has mimicked something similar. We
right.
worked to help them, and I can't remember, maybe a couple of other countries, they followed our example in Asia. So if your jurisdiction doesn't have it yet and you're in the process of marriage equality campaign, happy to discuss as well and how our strategy and how it's been frankly successful.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know sometimes when you're not lawyering, or maybe you still are lawyering when you do this, but you hop over to Hachijojima. Now, Hachijojima is an island off the shores of Japan mainland, and you're the honorary ambassador for that little island. How on earth did that happen? And what are you doing that for?
Catherine, obviously, I'm not the best ambassador because you haven't been to Hachijojima yet.
No, I
Um,
am no, you're
so,
definitely falling short.
yes, I'm fully sure of my ambassadorial duties. So, using this opportunity in front of all your listeners, I'm offering you and extending to you my ambassadorial invitation to come to Hachijojima. Looking forward to that, of course. It's been an amazing experience for me, Catherine, because Hachijojima is my escape. We all talk about busy life and living in Tokyo and working in Tokyo, which is amazing and fun and energetic, etc. As I get older, I do try to find time that is a bit more for me, I would say, and to my introverted time, which was one of the discoveries for me, I would say, during Corona, which I thought was like 100% extrovert, but actually no, I'm not. I do enjoy me time and time with my dog and with nature in my garden and etc. So I bought a house in Hachijima about 8 years ago, and it's in a very remote part of the island too. So I don't even have neighbors. Literally Morinonaka, and I've been trying to promote the island to the, I would say, foreign community, and with some success. Obviously, not entirely. Again, you haven't been there yet. Quite a few people haven't been there yet. If you want to go, let me know. I'm happy to give you some tips. I have a few friends and clients are coming this summer. It's beautiful. It's special. It's waterfalls. It's turtles, and it's hiking, and it's amazing shimazushi, and the nature and just geography itself is so stunning. It's literally like we have a Fuji sticking out of the ocean, in the middle of the ocean. It's a power spot. If you climb the sacred mountain and you make a wish at the shrine on top, there's a 98% chance of it coming true. So please come.
Thank you so much. I have to fit it into that big guest book you've got there with a few others coming through, but it's definitely on my plan. And I have your gorgeous 2025 calendar, which
Yes.
features images for each month of the island. And it's goodness, I
Inspiring?
think if you've failed to ambassadorially get me there, you've also pulled my heartstrings each month looking at those photos. So thank you for that.
Good.
I want to finish up, but I
Mhm.
do have a couple of other interesting questions for you. And so I'm going to ask you those and then we'll wrap up. But if you had your chance to do your career all over again, Alexander, what is one thing you might do differently or maybe even do it earlier than you did?
I think networking is a thing that I wish we would all start doing earlier. I can see younger generation being maybe more proactive on this. As a young lawyer, we spend a lot of hours, I would say, I don't know, doing doc review or supporting an M&A project. But it is important for soft and hard skills also to be out there and to network. I would wish I was studying it earlier. I would say networking is important. And
Mm,
mm,
excellent.
I know you would agree.
Oh, yes, definitely. It's the foundational aspect of my success, shall we say.
And the other thing, Catherine, if I
Mm,
can add, lawyering and being lawyers not shouldn't be in the vacuum of what laws are. I think it's important to also learn about clients' industries, and maybe you focus on, I don't know, a couple of industries that particular for your practice of law or your firm. I'll give you example like energy or energy transition. For me now, it's robotics and semiconductors. They definitely the new intellectual terrain and killing a few of brain cells. But it's impossible to give good advice and best advice without understanding the actual, elements, the engineering elements or the manufacturing elements of that. Uh, and I think we need to develop that ability to learn about clients' business and willing to learn, frankly, early on because it's not just the law. We need to understand what the clients are doing, and
absolutely.
it can be taken for granted, right? And I don't think it's law school teaches you that. It's focusing too much on the law, but I do think taking a step back and think, okay, what does this client do, and how they do it, and then how does the law fit there? That's how I approach a lot of my work.
Yeah,
Or
I think being interested in your clients in that way, but also being an interesting person.
mm,
So I'm sure
mhm.
there's something quite quirky or unexpected about you that people don't know that you do. What is that or those things? What are they?
My most recent thing is that I've taken on playing Sanshin, the Okinawan instrument.
Nice.
I played violin when I was younger for many years, and I tried to retake it recently. And when I tried practicing, my mother told me, "Do not embarrass the family." So, so I took it to heart, but I was like, maybe a bit different instrument. So Sanshin has been an amazing journey for me, and I've had a couple of performances now, which is
Wow.
fun.
Yeah. Strings are in your DNA, obviously, from the
Maybe,
violin, but
yes.
you're just changing the instrument, but still being creative. That's incredible.
I think so. So that's probably a quirky thing that I haven't received any offers to change jobs yet. So I will keep my day job.
That's so
But
funny.
I think it's putting myself in a very different space and challenging myself. And, our good friend Itakura-san, she's performed with me. And I mean, she's a role model for me in so many ways. And she said, look, yeah, it is not easy to be in front of the audience and all eyes are on you. And my last performance we did together, there was 1,100 people in front of us, and honestly speaking, it was the most kinchosuru. It was the most nervous moment that I've had in a long time. I think my partner said to me, "I've never seen you so nervous." That tells you a lot
There
because
you
I
go.
mean, I've taken the challenge and go with it, but it does teach you something about yourself, but also it's a challenge that helps you to grow, and growth is important.
And it's good to shake up your usual situation. Well
Yeah,
done.
taking yourself outside of that comfort zone
Exactly.
sometimes
Ah,
maybe a bit too
taking
much,
yourself out.
too far.
Exactly. Well, what's it meant to you today to be on Lawyer and Air? I know you've wanted to be here for a while. You said that at the beginning.
Well, first of all, it's a great honor, Catherine. I know you've been a phenomenal mentor for our female lawyers, and I think it's never enough. I'm a feminist, and I've also been, supporting women in law and otherwise in any way I can. I want to ensure that female professionals in legal profession continue to strive and get opportunities. And look, I think it's important. So being invited by you, frankly, is an honor. So I want to say a huge thank you to you, Catherine, for allowing me this opportunity. I'm truly grateful. If my story and my some of the suggestions and some of the comments made could be relatable and could be inspiring, that's the best thing we can hope for. I don't think I'm your typical lawyer necessarily or typical managing partner in a way. So I think hopefully it gives an idea that there's different people, there's different diversity of managers and different diversity, the diversity of partners and lawyers out there. I hope that would be another message that we can share.
Perfect.
So I hope that also gives additional inspiration to your listeners. And my journey has not been always easy and always straightforward, but it doesn't have to be. But
Mm,
it does make you a better person, and I think it does make you a more interesting person. Someone says, try to be the most interesting person in the room. Well, all these experiences and living in different countries and doing different work and working with different people, I find it very amazing and enjoyable, and I hope I'm a better person from that. So,
fantastic.
mm,
Thank you. Well, Alexander, we have reached the end of our chat.
arigato.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining me on Lawyer and Air. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you in this way. If people want to connect with you, how can they do that? Is it better to go to your website or just link to you on LinkedIn?
I'm a frequent LinkedIn user.
Frequent user. Yes.
Someone called it a bit differently. We won't say it on your podcast, but LinkedIn is great. Please, because I do try to have a mix of very technical stuff on
Yes.
LinkedIn about what we do in terms of sanctions work or export controls or compliance work, but also some personal elements and glimpse of what it is to be part of a wonderful big firm like Ashurst. So,
Yes.
and also, of course, my front page on LinkedIn is Hachijojima. So if you want to feel visual inspiration to come, it's up there. So please
Thank
join me and
you.
email me. My email's on our website. Thank you for this opportunity,
You're
and
welcome.
I look forward
And
to hearing from your listeners.
thank you. And to our listeners, indeed, if this episode has inspired you and given you something to think about, we would love to hear from you. Please make sure you subscribe, leave us a review on Apple Podcast, and you can even send a voice message on our website. Your feedback truly helps listeners like you to find this show, discover answers to questions that you always wanted to know about for a career in law in Japan, but you didn't know where to find it. So that's all for today. I'll see you back here for the next episode. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.